Hello learners, welcome to today's session where we are going to look at how to answer oral skill questions in Kcse. This is the first part of a two-part series where we are going to focus on what are the requirements whenever we are presented with the oral skills questions and some of the notable questions that can come during your Kcse. I am your facilitator, Abel, taking you through this first of our two series parts of how to answer oral skills questions. Welcome. Now, to begin with, we need to understand oral skills. Now, these oral skills test spoken English, and we would like to see the competences therein whenever somebody is speaking English. In poetry, oral skills can be grouped into 6 types of questions, that is, the sound pattern questions, stress and intonation question, etiquette and courtesy questions, non-verbal communication question, and social and functional communication question. A word of encouragement is that this is a very easy paper to pass, and if well practiced, nothing new can come from this paper. It is very easy to score a lot of marks if you know what is required from each section. Now let us go and see question by question the requirements of each type of questions. Then at the end we shall look at the notable question and see if we can answer them. Then we call it a day. Now the sound pattern questions. This question looks at the rhyme scheme of a poem, either regular or irregular, and the sound patterns like assonance, consonance, and alliteration in the poem. We also have the pronunciation questions that focuses on the sound. Remember, a lot of students have always been focusing on the spelling of words. This question requires us to look at the sound and not the spelling. For instance, you can be asked to identify words with different vowels or consonant sounds. Look at the example here. Pick the odd one out from the following words: beat, hit, great, meet. You will see that beat has the E sound, E vowel sound, hit as E vowel sound, great as A vowel sound, and meet has E vowel sound. So the odd one out from the pronunciation is great. Also, this question tests on the minimal pairs, and the minimal pairs from our knowledge is a word that changes when only one letter is changed. But this, for example, fan and van, you can see f and v. When fan is changed by v, then these two becomes the minimal pairs. Also, we have stress and intonation question. There are some stress that emphasis on a syllable, like the one we have just done, or those that emphasis on a word. Also, we do have intonation, that is rise and fall of the voice. And my advice here is to practice reading aloud and marking the stresses. Also, we do have the etiquette and courtesy question. Here, the etiquette question is emphasis on use of polite expression and respect in a given context. For example, we may have, may I speak to the teacher? You can see words like may I, excuse me, could you repeat that? Also, this is a courtesy question because it asks for a favor from someone. Students are being cautioned to avoid slang or rudeness. Sometimes slang words can be taken to be rude, and there are words that may sound okay, like for example, I want, and can be taken to be rude. Also, we do have the non-verbal communication question where we focus on facial expressions, gestures, postures, and eye contact. This facial expression supports the spoken words. Also, the non-verbal communication, for instance, we can be asked to show how we show interest by not using words, and we can say that interest can be shown by nodding, smiling, or even maintaining eye contact. Lastly, we have the social and functional communication questions. In this question, we look at the society and the social accepted norms. For instance, greetings, apologies, request, and turn taking. This may not require any form of words to show that maybe we are using them, but if you go against them, we will see you as rude. For instance, starting a conversation without greetings sometimes looks a little bit odd, and even interrupting a speaker mid-talk is also considered rude. Also, we do have the apologies when you've done something wrong, and also when we are asking for something, there are some words that are accepted that are used when you are requesting. For example, here the word could. Our knowledge of social cues and politeness comes to play in this kind of question. Now let us look at a sample Kcse question and see if we can apply the knowledge that we have in this question. We do have a question like read the poem below and answer the questions that follow, and this is from the poem Morning Melody. Soft sunlight sings through silver skies, bright birds beneath the branches rise, whispering weeds and in willows weave, calm clouds caress the cool of eve. Question 1. Identify the rhyme scheme of this poem. Question 2. Identify and illustrate any two sound patterns in this poem. Question 3. Which words would you stress in line 2 and why? Question 4. How would you say the last line of this poem? Here we have the first question of the rhyme scheme. You can see from the colors I have identified the rhyming words that are rhyming, and I've allocated the same alphabetical letter. Skies A, then I've the one that is rhyming the same alphabetical letter. Then we come to the answer and put the pattern as A, B, B. That is the first thing. You start with the pattern, and then after seeing the pattern, you identify whether it's regular, it's coming in regular pattern or irregular. Then from the pattern, we say it is regular rhyme scheme, and for what purpose? For musicality. Go to the second question, identify and illustrate any two sound patterns in this poem. I'd like to say that there are so many sound patterns but for the sake of the difference, I have seen students confusing alliteration and consonants. I have picked them. If you see, alliteration is the repetition of the consonant sound at the beginning of words only. And you can see this it's coming at the beginning of the words following in close proximity, therefore it becomes alliteration. Consonants, on the other hand, is the repetition of the same consonant sound, but now at the mid or the end of words. You can see the green is coming at the end of the two words, therefore becoming the consonants. Question 3. Which word would you stress in line 2 and why? You have seen in poetry, the following words carry the meaning. That is the nouns, the verbs, the adjective, and the adverbs. Care should be taken that it is the main verb that carries the meaning. So if we go back to the poem, you will see that bright is an adjective, birds, nouns, branches, nouns, rice, verbs. So these four words are stressed. And why are they stressed? Because they carry the meaning, and in poetry we say they are content words. Lastly, how would you say the last line of this poem? I would want to advise students that when they see the last line of a poem, normally it is said with a falling intonation, because falling intonation show that something is going to end. Therefore, I will say it with a falling intonation to show finality. Now let us just look at a practice quiz so that we prepare ourselves for the next session by just rounding up on this information that we have here. Number 1, choose the odd one out. Here we have seen the odd one out was great because of the vowel A. Number 2, write one polite way to end a phone call. Most of the time, students don't know that it is polite to thank somebody for calling. Therefore, one way of ending a call politely is by thanking the caller for calling. Number 3, state one way to show active listening. There are a number of ways like nodding and maintaining eye contact. Number 4, mention one nonverbal cue showing boredom. Here we have sleeping or dozing. I have paused here because many a times students have been bringing or have been answering this question from a negative perspective. They have been answering like, how would you know somebody is bored when they are not taking notes? When you include the word not, that will be wrong because you are not answering the question, but you are evading the question. Number 5, how would you make a speech interesting? Now, to make a speech interesting, there are two things that we look at. That is the use of gestures or nonverbal communication and the use of tone. So, when you are asked how would you make something interesting, our knowledge or our eyes are looking at a nonverbal cue and a verbal cue. Now, this is an open question. To make a speech interesting, we use a gesture and vary our tone. Of course, maintaining eye contact so that we can show the seriousness of such a speech. Now that marks the end of today's lesson. Next time, we will dwell deeper into the speech and into the social aspect and see which areas are accepted and which are not accepted. Until next time, Have a lovely evening.